I want to now bring in legal analyst and trial attorney Misty Marris for more here. Misty, good morning to you. Happy Friday. What are you expecting to come out of today's arraignment?
Today will be an arraignment, as you said, Marky, which is largely a procedural type of conference where Luigi Mangione will come in and is expected to plead not guilty to the charges against him. Now, these are the federal charges. The arraignment's already happened on the state level charges. And I do think that we could get at least an idea of scheduling as for some of the challenges the defense has made. And what I mean by scheduling is I don't think we're going to see a determination from the judge today regarding death penalty being on the table. But we could get a sense of how that motion practice will play out and the timeline for that for both parties to make those arguments.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the death penalty part of this whole case. Mangione's lawyers are calling Attorney General Pam Bondi's death penalty push a political stunt, announcing it before the grand jury indicted him. Do you think that's going to end up being a violation of his due process, Misty?
And that's the argument. So the defense has said that the death penalty should be off the table and be precluded, meaning can't be raised during the trial as a penalty, because Pam Bondi made what's called extrajudicial statements. That means before this notice of intent, which was just filed yesterday to seek the death penalty, was in the courts as part of the process, she went on television and spoke openly about seeking the death penalty for Mangione. So that's one piece of it. The other is that the defense did not get the opportunity to make a full submission raising what's called mitigating factors. And the third argument that the defense raised is that Pam Bondi, the U.S. attorney, went outside of what would be typical practices for capital punishment. There's a capital punishment committee, and that she circumvented that process, violating Luigi Mangione's due process. So that's the argument. The government had responded, this is an important point, that the defense motion was premature, and that's because Luigi had not been arraigned and they hadn't filed a formal notice of intention. Well, Marky, those two things have changed. So now we may see the government basically making the counter argument. Keep in mind, what the defense is doing right now, they're saying that all of these are violations of due process. We're likely to see more substantive, meaning digging into, is this the type of case that's historically been a death penalty case on the federal level, and making comparisons to other cases and why Luigi's is different. And that feeds into that idea of, is this political, or is this truly a case that warrants the death penalty from the perspective of precedent?
And what we've seen in the past. Looking ahead, I mean, what do you see coming from the defense? I mean, what kind of case do they start to build around Luigi Mangione?
We already see it happening. Remember that we talk about two cases. We talk about the federal case, which is death penalty eligible murder with the use of a firearm, the state case, which is murder in the furtherance of terrorism. So those are the two murder cases. But remember, there's also a Pennsylvania case relating to the possession of that ghost gun and bringing a fake ID to the officer. So it's the less serious case, but there are evidentiary challenges that have already been filed seeking to preclude, meaning to throw out a bunch of evidence. Basically, what the Pennsylvania motion for the defense asks is to conclude that Luigi Mangione's arrest violated his rights because he was not read his Miranda rights at the time that he was detained, and that everything that was in that backpack is actually what's called fruits of the poisonous tree, meaning that they did not get a warrant and therefore it violated his rights. So this is the defense, like in simple terms, right? That's what the motion says.
Right.
The defense is trying to get a bunch of evidence thrown out of the courtroom. Will they be successful? We don't know. I think it's unlikely, but you're going to see similar motions in the New York cases.
And then lastly, real quick, before I let you go, how much closer does today's arraignment get us to some sort of trial in this case, Misty?
Well, right now, the arraignment is the first procedural step in the federal court, which means we're off to the races. Okay. That being said, we know that there had been an agreement between the federal government and the state government to say that the state case will be going first. Now, will that change, especially since the federal government is taking this step to seek the death penalty? Clearly, they're going scorched earth on this particular case. So that could potentially change. There could be a little bit of a power struggle between those two. But as of now, The understanding is the state case will go first, but this means the federal case is moving forward. You're going to see discovery, you're going to see motions, you're going to see pretrial conferences, and so we're on the way towards that trial.
Okay, off to the races. We'll see what today has in store. Misty, always good to have you. Have a fabulous weekend.
Thank you, Marky. You too.